I'm Mitch from Hard Intentions YouTube channel. We also have hardintentions.com where we have merchandise. But today we have a special guest on our YouTube channel, and he's a friend of mine I was in prison with, and he's out in the world. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Bobby Barminski. I'm from Salinas. Yeah.
All right, cool. And so how old are you, Bob?
I'm 36.
All right. Oh, you're a youngster still.
That's what they say.
Yeah. So you say from Salinas. Do you grow up in Salinas?
Yeah, I was born in Texas, but my family moved really first to San Juan Bautista, and then I was in Salinas, well, on a cattle ranch outside of Salinas, the caretakers, since I was 5. I was 5 years old.
All right, yeah. That's where you grew up. So you go to school and all that in Salinas?
Yeah, well, the middle school and stuff was outside of Salinas, and I went to high school in Salinas.
All right, cool. Yeah, I know Salinas from when I was in Soledad. I had to go to the hospital there when I got valley fever. Natividad. So
Yeah.
you grew up on a ranch. Your folks were caretakers of a ranch or something?
Yeah, an 800-acre cattle ranch. All
right. And so that's where you grew up?
Yeah, around cowboys and stuff.
Wow, that must have been a trip.
Yeah, it was cool.
All right. Cool. So you grew up in like a traditional family, like mom, dad, everything?
Yeah, I come from a good family. I'm one of the guys that ended up going to prison on my own, like kind of my own mess up. I had a good family. Both my parents, they're still together.
Yeah.
They worked. They raised me right. I got a beautiful family. I'm blessed.
Yeah. All right. So, like growing up in Salinas, you went to school. I mean, how was that? Like you're living on a ranch, but you're going to school with guys where they did similar upbringings, or were they just living in regular housing, or kind of guys you're going to school with and stuff? Coming up,
like middle school and elementary school were like the same kind of community, and then I got the culture shock when I went to Salinas High, and then after Salinas High, I got kicked out of there. I went to continuation school in Mount Toro, and then I went to continuation school, St. Mary's, on the east side of Salinas, and that's kind of where I started going bad, I guess you'd say.
What was the culture shock?
All of a sudden there were like the first thing I'll remember is going to Salinas High, and like all of my buddies that we grew up with, we were sitting at a table, and then next thing you know, like that we show up in the morning and there's gang graffiti on our table, and they're sitting on there like they were trying to punk us out of our table. And like I always joke about that with my homeboys, like, man, I've been fighting with these dudes over tables since I was fucking 13 years old,
Yeah.
In prison it's the same shit, but so we took our table back, and we wrote stuff on it, and I got suspended from school, and it just progressed and got worse like that. I never really was racist. It's just like they were the ones calling me white boy, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like I was getting beat up because I was white. I was getting jumped up, gang banged, because I was white, and I didn't want to click up with them,
So in high school you went to, there wasn't a lot of white folks there, or what?
At Salinas High, yeah. Then you go to Mount Toro, and then the white guys that were there, like, I hate to be all racial about it. I'm not racist. I wasn't raised racist. All my friends know I got tons of black friends. I'm not racist, but anyways. When I went to continuation school, the few white kids that were there were either clicked up with Hispanic gangs, African-American gangs. There was only a couple of us that were just like, hey, we're not like gangbangers, we're not gangbangers. We're
just regular.
We want to be gangsters at the time, we want to be gangsters, but we're not going to click up with your shit. That's kind of the mentality,
So you guys were just regular white dudes.
Just regular white dude, man. Just doing drugs, running around.
So you got into
crime.
You got into
crime.
Yeah. So when did you start? What was your so what kind of influences you had? Did you have that got you? You say you got into drugs and stuff. So, and you like wanted to be in a gangster thing and all. So what kind of influences did you have, like coming up, like the culture shock, high school, all that wanted led you to into that? that type
I would say the first thing would be the alcohol, and the motivation behind that was I really liked women, you know, but I was nervous to talk to them. And then I went to a party, I drank a couple shots, and next thing you know, I was able to talk to girls, hook up with girls or whatever, you know. And so that's when I started drinking. And then the hard drugs were kind of just a fluke, man. I just got the bad luck of the draw. Had a dude that was a few years older than me. That was just, you know, a dirtbag, and it was basically, I mean, now I look back on it, you know, like, and just was like, hey, try this, and I didn't like have the you know, the self-esteem or the, you know, to say no. You know, it's just he was somebody that had been to jail, been to prison, that I looked up to. You know what I mean? And so he put something on the table, and I did it. You know.
So you're a teenager now. This guy been to the pen?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, what the fuck? You know, at the time I thought he was like,
Yeah.
it's a hero, but it's like, dude, what a scumbag. You know, now that I've been to prison, and I could not imagine getting out of prison and giving an underage kid drugs. You know, like, it's just,
Yeah, it's kind of
blows my
dirtbag
mind.
shit. That's dirtbag shit, you know.
Yeah, scumbag shit.
I mean, I fell into drugs as a teenager too, but it was a little different, you know. It was just around, you know. Yeah, so you started drinking, and then did you like start smoking weed, and then was it a progression, or was it just all of a sudden you saw this guy and tried it, or?
I was smoking weed, I was drinking. I think I did mushrooms like once, and then he put down some meth, you know, and I didn't even know what it was. I had no idea what it was. I did it because I thought that was the cool thing to do, you know.
Yeah,
And definitely was not the cool thing to do, but
yeah,
that there's nothing I can do about that now, you know.
yeah. You know, I mean, yeah, crank. That was be crank back then, I think, right?
It was still crank when I started. It was like a lemon drop crank, rosebud crank, that kind of shit.
So I mean, I started my drug thing started with, like, you know, alcohol, weed, and then we had reds and we had whites. You know, whites, cross top, speed. You know, but when I got out of Preston, you know, that's when I discovered crank, and it was just, it was, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
looking back on it, you know, it kind of fucked my world up. But at the time, you know, it makes you feel pretty fucking good. Makes you feel
Yeah,
like Superman, you know?
it wouldn't be hard to stop if it wasn't good, you know.
Yeah, yeah, you know. So you started using speed. Did you continue using it after that time, or?
Yeah, just a steady progression, and just things got worse, more crime, more like, you know, I just, you know, yeah,
And
more
so were you still going to high school?
no, I got kicked out of Salinas High when I was a sophomore, I think. I'd been suspended a couple times, and then finally they just expelled me. I went to Mount Toro, the continuation, so I got kicked out of there. And I went to the east side of Salinas. I got kicked out of St. Mary's. It's just, I eventually got my high school diploma through homeschool, but just because I was blessed to have good parents, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
that really reined me in. Like, fortunately, my dad was like, if you're not going to go to high school, like, you're going to have to work, and you're going to have to take college classes, you know? Like, so I started taking a couple college classes. I've
yeah,
always been pretty smart, you know, but, my parents tried like hell, dude, you know, my little sister, all my family, you know, they've always had my back. They've always tried, and I just fuck up, you know, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. So what were you getting kicked out of school for? Like
Um, Drinking, drugs, at Mount Toro, me and my buddy got in a fight. My buddy got stabbed with a screwdriver by some gangbangers and shit. And yeah, so just, you know, they didn't want us around no more. You know, just quit going there, just quit going. You know, and then yeah, just not going. When I was there, I was high, smoking weed, mainly weed, like in high school, a little, you know. But anyways, and yeah, just fucking up, fights, drugs, yeah,
yeah.
all that shit.
All right. And so now you're out of high school. How old are you?
36.
No, I mean at the time when you
Oh,
got kicked out of school for the last time.
the first time I think I was like 15, and then uh 15, like 15. It's like 15 through like 17. There were some rough years, you know. There's some rough years.
And so there you are, like 16, 17 years old, uh, partying, criming, gangstering, and you're a teenager with a lot of free time on your hand.
Yeah.
Wow. And so were you like meeting other guys, like older people that were getting you into crime, or were you just you and your homies, or what kind of influences did you have now?
Yeah, older guys, like, I mean, people started like pulling guns out on me, got shot at a couple times. So then I was like, well, these motherfuckers got guns, so I'm gonna have a gun. You know what I mean? That's the mentality, But yeah, definitely there's some older guys kind of, steering me the wrong way. But I don't take responsibility for it too. Like it was, I was like kind of like a square like kid, and then like I hit high school and I liked it, bro. Like I'm not gonna like sugarcoat the shit. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
It's not cool, but I thought it was. I thought
Yeah.
it was, bro.
Well, when you're young, you don't think about, when you're going to be older. You just think, at least for me, I just thought, hey, fuck it, I'm gonna live forever. Right? I'm young. You don't think about what's down the road. You're just thinking about what's going on right now. And right, it's like, this is the guys I know. These are the people I associate with. We're having a good time, and fuck anybody that don't like it, kind of.
Straight up.
So did you start having contact with the law?
Yeah, I was getting arrested since I was 15. I never went to juvenile hall. The most like severe thing was like this gang prevention class and scared straight thing. I had to go to Salinas Valley. And like, even though I wasn't a gang member, like, they're like, we don't know, everything in Salinas is geared towards dealing with gang members. So they're like, well, you're a juvenile that's in trouble in Salinas. And so all we have is like, you know what I mean? And then I'm just one step away from juvenile hall, like I never made it to juvie. I never went to juvenile hall.
Yeah.
The first time I was ever in jail was when I caught when I got arrested for the home invasion or robbery.
Oh, so you say you went to Salinas? Do you mean Salinas Valley Prison?
Yeah, when I was like, I can't remember, I was like 16 or 17. I had to show up there at like 5 a.m. They dressed us out. We like spent the whole day on the yard, went in a cell. They showed us all the knives they had found and all that shit, like the whole little scared straight thing.
I like the scared straight kind of.
Yeah. Scared straight shit. Yeah.
Wow. So what kind of impression did that have on you? I mean, they showed you weapons and.
Not much of one. I mean, I was already kicking it with dudes that have been to prison. It didn't really impress me too much. Like I was just like really not tripping, like they're telling me all these horror stories and I already knew the reality of what prison was, or I had been, fairly good ideas. I know they're full of shit. You're not going to go in there and like somebody's going to punk you or you're going to get raped. Like it's not that serious. You know what I mean? You might have to stab somebody, but like other than that, you'll be all right.
Because you've been around guys that had been to prison.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So you never made it to juvenile hall, so you got a home invasion, you say?
Yeah, when I was 19, I got arrested for a home invasion armed robbery.
All right. And that was that like drug related shit?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So now you're arrested. That's a pretty serious crime. You were 19. So,
yeah.
That's a serious crime.
Yeah.
And so what were your options? I mean, you're sitting in the county jail. So now you're in a county jail.
Yeah.
Because you're an adult.
Yeah, 19 years old. Yeah.
So, like, what was that like? All of a sudden, there you are in a county jail. You're in Salinas County Jail?
Yeah, Monterey County Jail. They put me in D dorm back then. That's where they put the parolees at. And like they didn't segregate prison gang members out of the general population. So there were prison gang members in there, and
yeah.
It was pretty real,
So
cool.
that county jail, was that mostly like northern Hispanics or?
They don't. I mean, there's a large population of them, but they haven't housed us with them since like the 90s. So it was just it was African Americans, whites, Mexican nationals, paisas, others, and yeah.
All right, so they keep the northerners like off to their own section.
Yeah, they're like totally like all by themselves. We would go to court with them and we'd be in the holding tanks with them when we're waiting to go to court and shit. But like, yeah, they're off on their own. All
right.
Their own little whatever housing unit.
All right. So you're sitting in the county jail now. What kind of time were you facing?
Well, the first offer was 22 years with 2 strikes. They never tried to give me life for it because it was my first time, going to jail as an adult. But I 22 years with 2 strikes, and after 6 months, they offered me 19 years with 2 strikes. And then after a year, they offered me a sentencing range of 6 to 16 years with 1 strike, and the judge got to choose, and they ended up giving me 9 years.
They gave you 9 years.
Yeah.
So was that with strikes or just is that a 1 strike?
1 strike. I got 1 strike. It was what I pled out to was conspiracy to commit armed robbery, use of a firearm while committing a felony, and inflicting great bodily injury.
Okay.
I pistol whipped the guy.
All right. And so now you got 9 years.
Yeah.
So what kind of, like you're pretty smart. I know you. And so were you like asking questions, trying to figure out what's going on? Like what's the process? And
yeah, big time. Like, I mean, I was blessed really to kind of land where I landed in the county jail because, and all them guys in there looked out for me pretty tough. They laced me up. By the time I hit prison, I already knew what time it was. All the guys in there, man, everybody in there looked out for me pretty good, dude. And I'm always thankful for that. I'm thankful for that. I was blessed. I was blessed because I hit prison and I already knew everything.
Yeah, we had a good idea.
Yeah, I shouldn't say knew everything. Yeah, I had an idea of what to expect. We'll put it there.
Yeah, for me, I've been to Preston and I've been through like several years of youth authority. So I had, the white dudes in youth authority were like, it was like, it's like, hey, we're all white, and so to get to prison and see a lot of the shit that I seen in prison was kind of, kind of fucked me up because I had an idea how things were supposed to be and they really weren't that way. But so you went to, where'd you go to reception center? Where'd you go to reception center at?
Delano, B Yard. I think I was at one of the buildings on B Yard, and then I ended up going to A Yard. That was a reception back then too. I was in B Yard for like a couple weeks, and then I was on A Yard for a couple of weeks, and then I got sent to Pleasant Valley. Yeah, reception was a trip though. Like I remember like my first vivid memory of reception is we were on lockdown because people kept getting like stabbed on the yard or removals or whatever. Yeah. And so they're feeding us in the building, and I'm walking there and like they had like, how they have the like the hot water and the little for in the morning or breakfast, they had them set up on the table, and I was sitting there like getting some hot water for my coffee, and like this fool's just getting stabbed up like 3 feet away from me, and like I was just trying to be cool, so like I just drank the hot water and it ended up scalding the fuck out of me, dude. But wow. I just didn't react at all, and like my lips were all blistered and shit, it's fucked up, man. But yeah, because, like
that's one thing you learn right away, like when you see some shit like that, you just kind of act normal,
Yeah. You don't want to front nobody off,
Yeah, you want, yeah. Nowadays, I tripped out like last time I was in Donovan, there'd be a fight on the yard or stabbing on the yard, and everybody just be sitting down. Look, I mean, these kids would sit down before they even called yard down. I'm like, what the fuck?
That's a DP right there, dog, for sure.
Fuck,
That's out.
Yeah. You find yourself in a situation where guys getting stabbed, like you say, like 3 or 4 feet from you. You just got to kind of, keep stepping, And
keep it cool,
Yeah.
But like the fellas right there saw that I got, so they saw that, like they were clowning me about my blistered lips, but then right away that was kind of like, it was almost a good thing in a sense, because then the dudes that had been to prison, they seen like all this youngster, like, he knows what time it is, you know what I mean? Like I just kept it cool, just walked to my table, just sat down for breakfast.
Yeah. So yeah, Delano's, I heard that's a fucked up place,
Dude, it's gnarly. Yeah, it was gnarly back then, bro. That was in 2007. Like I said, when I got there, they weren't even giving us yard because every time they let yard up, somebody was getting hit. But
yeah,
it wasn't a cool place to be back then.
Yeah,
A yard was a little mellower. A yard was like back then, if I remember correctly, it was like B yard was like level 4 lifer shit, and then like then A yard was like a level 3. And then C yard was like level 1, level 2. So I went to the A yard was a little mellower. I mean, they were just getting removed like without weapons. B yard was just like pretty much hands off policy.
Yeah. Oh, like stab only kind of shit.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I was only there for a couple of weeks, dude. But like I said, I mean, the first time I went out to breakfast, somebody was getting banged out in the day room, you know?
Yeah. You know, that hands-off shit developed into like a policy, like, yeah, we don't fight, we stay, you know. But originally, what that came from was, you know, back when they just had San Quentin and Folsom were the only level 4s, they would shoot you for fighting. And, you know, Folsom, they had like mini 14s, and then San Quentin, we had shotguns and mini 14s, but they would shoot you for fighting. So, guy, you know, you don't want to get, you know, you sock a guy in the mouth, you're getting shot. It's kind of a high price to pay for a fight. So guys would just stab each other, you know.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
said before, like the equivalent of a fist fight back then was stab a guy 3 or 4 times, you know. So
Yeah, the mini 14 going off isn't a good feeling, dude. Being on a prison yard hearing that thing.
it's fucking ugly, you know. So that's kind of where the no fighting shit came from, and then it just turned into guy, you know, newer generations came in, and then it just became, yeah, we don't fight, you know, we're tough, we can stab them, kill them.
That Pepsi generation shit.
Yeah, but really, where it came from was guys didn't want to get shot for fighting, you know.
Yeah.
There were guys that would fight, like if you could get in a blind spot somewhere, dudes would fight, but you know, run up and sock somebody up. But for the most part, it was just they would stab people, you know. So yeah, so you got a taste of prison fucking stupidity right off the bat,
Yeah.
man. And then, you know, so you went to Pleasant Valley.
Yeah.
So I know some guys have been there. They refer to it as Unpleasant Valley.
For sure. Yeah, I went to B Yard. I got there in like February 2007. And when I first got there, like the yard wasn't like too crazy. Like, but I was there for 5 years, and I saw it transition, and it got pretty ugly there the last couple of years. You know,
Yeah.
I was in a riot with the Bulldogs, where they shot 2 dudes with a mini 14. One of them didn't make it. You know, it's like
Yeah.
one fatality, 2 life flights, 8 ambulance rides that day. You know, just one riot.
So, you know, I know guys went to Pleasant Valley when it first opened up. And they said it was better than Donovan. Fucking sweet.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's what. There were some lifers there that had been there like since it opened, and they were like, you know, when this place opened, it was like all about vocations, education, SAP. Like it was like a programmer prison, you know. But they tried to implement a pilot BMU behavioral management program there. Like it just.
What
Yeah,
year
it was
that?
that was like 2008. I was doing a shoe turn for drug trafficking. I didn't go to the shoe. I just went to the hole. I sat in the hole for 6 months. And during that time, it was decided that everybody was gonna, other than the blacks, everybody else was going to like stop getting into problems and focus on the Bulldogs.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
And that's kind of what triggered.
so a lot of guys, like the people that aren't from California, they don't, you know. So the Bulldogs, that's a group of guys that they're like Northern Hispanics, but they're from Fresno, right?
Like an offshoot. It's like an offshoot. At one time they were with them, and they have gone their own way, you know, or whatever.
And so
And
they're like their own little thing. They don't really get along with anyone. Kind of.
no, they don't. It's really at a certain time when I was first there, like it wasn't like necessarily like a guaranteed green light on those dudes. Like, you know, it wasn't necessarily on site with them. Like, but it became that way very shortly thereafter across the state. But anyways, even when I was there, like, and it was possible for us to maybe try to figure out something with them. They don't. I mean, personally, I'm biased, right? But it's just they run it. I'm not sure, you know, there's Bulldogs that are, or whatever, the dudes that are gangsters, you know, for sure, you know, but I mean, they don't check their own people. They don't, like, you know, like if they get drunk and they're in the cell and they're yelling disrespectful shit, you know, and it's like, hey, dude, hey, your boy's disrespecting us, dude. Like, you know, they won't do nothing about it. You know what I mean? So it's just like, why even try to program with these dudes? It's just gonna become a wreck anyway, so we might as well just kick it off. You know, basically that was the mentality, dude. You know?
Yeah. I heard some nightmare shit, man, from Pleasant Valley over the the bulldog thing, you know, like that.
It was gnarly, bro. It was gnarly, dog. It was fucked up. It was
I
fucked
heard
up.
at one point even the blacks were like, just like fuck these dudes, you know.
Yeah, but we went on they tried to do the behavioral management thing, right? So they put all of the northern Hispanics, southern Hispanics, whites and Paisas in two buildings, building 4 and building 5.
Yeah.
And then it was just blacks and bulldogs and others programming. And when we came off the lockdown, like I guess the blacks and the bulldogs had come to some conclusion that they weren't going to allow skinheads to be on the yard, all this shit. So like, there were white dudes that had swastikas on them, and the blacks were telling them they had to put their shirts on, and like it's like, look, bro, like you want the business too or what? Like, cause like you know what I mean? Like anybody could get it, dog. So it was funky, dude. It was real funky, bro, right there. It was real funky.
Wow. Yeah, it was just like whatever group came out first, like off the lockdown, they just got off.
Dude, well, it was so shady, bro, for a minute that because the cops knew that we had this agreement to get the bulldogs or whatever, right? They told the bulldogs that if they're not the aggressors, they won't lock them down, even if they're in a riot, right? And like they had put us in those two buildings for a whole year. I went through a whole year lockdown right there. Wow. And what they would do is they would let the bulldogs out first, and then the bulldogs, if they would know what group segment was going to come out, right? So they would be at like the white table or the northern Hispanic table or the southern Hispanic table. So then they were guaranteed to never be the aggressor. It was like it was crazy, bro.
So like if they let the white dudes out first,
it was gnarly, bro. It wasn't cool at all.
And there they are sitting at.
They would never let the white dudes. Yeah. It'd always be the bulldogs first, and the bulldogs would know who was coming out. So they'd be like, the cops would tell them, oh yeah, there's gonna be 5 white dudes or 3 white dudes released today. So as soon as the white dudes would come out to yard, there's the bulldogs at our table. Yeah. So we're not the aggressor because we're gonna go to our table and get off.
Are you gonna go say that's our spot?
That's our fucking table, bro. You know what I mean? And then when it's the southern Hispanics, they're there at the southern Hispanic table. Or when it's the northern Hispanics, and they would never go on lockdown. Never go on lockdown. Never go on lockdown.
Wow.
Yeah, but then it all that changed. The riot that I was in on, it was July 16, 2009. They rushed us in the Paisas, and that's when the 2 bulldogs got shot with the Mini 14. One of them passed away. It was fucked up. He was a youngster, bro. He was doing like 16 with half. It was a fucked up deal. But at that they got locked down for like 2 years after that. Yeah, that was fucking. It was just crazy, bro. It was.
See, that's part of staff manipulation.
Straight up.
You know what I mean? And then people don't understand. Think, oh, prison guards just doing their job. Whatever. Some of them do, but I mean, the staff that run the fucking place, the COs have to do what they're saying. Like the administrators. So that's a little game they're playing. That it keeps everybody in chaos and all this shit going on, so they don't have to worry about. Staff don't have to worry about being victimized because the prisoners are fucking fighting with and stabbing each other all the fuck. That's a manipulative game that they play, and they put people's lives in danger by doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's fucked up, and when you're living in it, you can see it.
Yeah, it's right there. But I mean, there were good things at Pleasant Valley too. Like I was a clerk for this lady, Mrs. Prater, man. I love her. I was a clerk for 4 years. She was a great woman. She was hella cool. I mean, even the dude ended up being the yard sergeant. He was my building cop, dude. This dude, a Mezquat. He was hella cool, bro. Like after all that shit happened, and the bulldogs going down for 2 years, when we were up for a little while, Yeah. And I remember it was the first time I was on a cell phone, right? And I'm in the cell. I hadn't used one. It's like 2009, I think, right? And maybe like the second, third time I was on the phone. But anyways, there's no program, short of staff, and I'm on the phone, or maybe I think my cellular's on the phone. I'm keeping point. All of a sudden, my door just opens. I'm like, what the fuck? I was thinking like they're tripping on the phone. You never know the technology. So anyways, they call me to the program office, and the Sergeant Mesco is like, hey, do you know what this is about? And I'm tripping thinking it's the phone, like somehow they got some scanner, they pinged on my shit. I don't know. And I'm just like, no. And he's like, he showed me 2 kites, and he's like, look, dude, the last 2 stabbings that happened involving the whites, people fucking turned in notes, anonymous notes saying you were responsible for these 2 stabbings, whatever, you played a part in it. And he's like, IGI wants me to yank you off the yard right now and take you to the hole for white pressure group, but they're anonymous notes and they're involving 2 separate incidents, you know? So I know he's like, I know you're a good dude, because he had been my building cop when I got there. So I've known this cop for like 4 years, bro. You know what I mean? Like, and he watched it, like, you know, there never no funny shit or nothing. He just, you know, you're in the building with the dude, then he becomes a yard sergeant, you know, bada. And he's like, bro, like, my points were getting low. I think I was like nearly transferring to CMC West when I met you, you know, like, he's like, bro, just chill, bro. Don't be involved in no bullshit, dude, and transfer the fuck out of here, man. You know what I mean? And he's like, just know the IGI, I think he used to be ICU. He's like, bro, I had to vouch for you, bro. Because IGI wanted to snatch you up right now, dude, and put you for associating with a prison gang and shit, white pressure group, whatever the fuck. And so, you know, there's good people everywhere, dog, and good shit happens, you know, like, and I just mellowed out, bro. I was cool, and I ended up transferring to CMC West, and it was good, you know?
So during that time, Pleasant Valley, what was your, you know, if you don't mind me asking, what was your, like, your substance abuse kind of shit? Was that like, were you involved with like getting loaded and all that kind of shit?
Yeah, I mean, started off like bringing weed in, and then like that's where like heroin, you know, there's a lot of heroin on that yard, man, and
yeah,
dude, you know, and yeah, it was fun. It was like hella fucked up times, you know. You're going through this shit, you're watching people get stabbed up, you're watching dudes die on the yard, you know. It's like, fuck, man, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I spent the first half. I mean, when I met you, I was clean, you know. I was, but you know, I spent the first half of my 19 years in prison, man. I partied all the time. I sold drugs, used drugs, snorted crank, smoked weed, drink, you know. And those 19 years, you know, and it's not an excuse or nothing, but I was kind of numb through it, and it went by a lot faster than it probably would have if had I been clean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I still got a lot of shame and guilt behind that, because I always had my family, dude. I had a good old lady, and I just, you know, fucking, you know, I could have just squared up, you know. I could have gone to prison. I could have, you know, I really, even at Pleasant Valley, like, you know, but I dove in the shit, you know. I just dove in it, bro. I was just like, you know what, you know.
It's part of life in prison, you know.
Yeah.
It's not easy to clean up in prison. Guys do it. I mean, I did it, but I mean, fuck, you know, I did almost 4 decades in there. So, but you know, it's hard. You know, you know, you're on a yard with 1,000 dudes, and 990 of them are getting loaded. You know.
Yeah,
So
that's rough, man.
You know, it's not. You know, I mean, I did it.
You helped me get clean. You helped me get clean before I paroled, though, man. That's what you did do.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I never forget that shit.
Yeah. So this cop, he was like, all right, so he's like, hey, dudes, and just so you know, IGI, that's like investigated gang unit or some shit.
Yeah, IGI. Yeah, investigated.
So they're looking to lock you up. And so, but people don't know, like California had Pelican Bay, Corcoran, Tehachapi, shoe units.
Yeah, this was back in the time when they were just like you know, this must have been like 2000 when I got called in. That was like maybe 2010.
Yeah.
So they still had indeterminate shoe terms. It was hard to go to the shoe back then, though. You know, I mean, I got an 8-month shoe term and just did it all in the ad seg unit right there at Pleasant Valley.
Yeah, but if you get validated as a white pressure guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big deal, dude. If I had gone, and I'd already beat a validation point at that point. During my first shoe term, they hit. So it was a candy ass validation point, bro. It was a participation of gang coordinated exercises, you know, and I ended up getting it dropped. But anyway, so, you know, they could have theoretically validated me as an associate of a prison gang. Like, even though that's a stretch of the imagination to say the least, you know, I'm not all that, but whatever, you know how they are.
For doing burpees on the yard with fellas.
Yes, the candiest ass validation point ever. You know,
yeah,
I was like,
you know, it's fucked up because, you know, they would. So the shoe units, they had to keep those shoe units full. So they were validating guys as prison gang members just so they could get them in the shoe. And once you get validated as a prison gang associate, so they locked up all the prison gangs.
Yeah.
The white guys, then another prison gang started. They locked all them guys up. So the white population was getting smaller and smaller too, of, you know, decent guys. And then they would say, oh, you know, you were involved with predatory behavior. and they would validate you for that and lock you up.
White pressure group. White pressure group.
White pressure group, yeah. And they would lock you up indeterminately for that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I could have, in theory, I came close to getting an indeterminate shoe term. You know, as silly as that sounds, you know what I mean? Because like, honestly, I'm not all that, but like, it could have happened, you know?
Well, you know, if you're a white dude on the yard in a fucked up prison, just doing what, you know, guys do, you know, like certain things have to be done. I mean,
Yeah.
You know, staff take notice, people snitch, and next thing you know, you're getting fucking kites dropped on you. And so this guy, he obviously had some respect for you. He knew your program, your behavior, and he liked you, and he gave you heads up.
Yeah, for sure.
So how much longer did you stay there before you transferred down to level 2?
I think maybe like at the most like a year. That was maybe like a year out. I think it was like probably like 2010 or something like that. The dates are a little fuzzy, dude, but I ended up going to CMC West. I think I got CMC West in March 2011 is when I got there. I do remember that.
Yeah, I got there in 13, so you were there a couple years.
Yeah, I was there before they brought lifers back to the yard.
Yeah, so
and then I watched
CMC West. They have CMC East, which is cell living, and then CMC West is dorm living.
Yeah.
So CMC West used to be military barracks. Like they brought wounded soldiers back from World War II. That's been a military place since the 1800s. So the prison system basically leased it from the National Guard, I think. Right?
Yeah. It's cool. I mean, I loved it because it's like basically what I always try to describe it to people is like it's like they took like an old school army base and just put a fence around it, you know, because it just everything was all the buildings, all the shit was just like it wasn't like prison. You didn't.
There was no locks on the doors. No locks on the doors. You could open the windows.
Yeah, you can see the highway from the yard. They had like palm trees on the yard, bocce ball courts. I was like,
bocce ball. I used to play that every day. Yeah. I used to go down the fence and stare at Highway 1 and wait for motorcycles to go by.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But you know, so when you got there, what was that like? I mean, all of a sudden now you're on this yard. It looks like fucking Camp Snoopy level 2.
It was a culture shock for sure, dude. And I remember I actually ended up on the yard with one of my co-defendants. One of my co-defendants only got 6 years. Just because he didn't get caught with a gun when we got arrested. That's all. You know, both my co-defendants stayed solid. You know, I was blessed. You know, we wrote it out. And so anyways, he was on like S time when I got there. And like, I remember when I saw him on the yard and like, I had my wife beat on, he hadn't seen me for years, you know? And then I'm like, I called his name and he's like, who the fuck are you? And I'm like, it's Bobby, fool. What's up, dog? You know what I mean? He's like, who the fuck is this dude? You know, he still looked the same. I had changed. You know, I look different. You know, I was like, what the fuck? But, you know, yeah, it was a trip.
So, what I tripped out on is, you know, there was a lot of drugs there, and it was like level 2 killers. You know, like
Oh yeah.
Guys find themselves on a lower security yard, and it's like, you know, like for me doing life. I'm on a level 2. I didn't like that place. I mean, I went to San Quentin. You know, I like San Quentin Soledad level 2 because it's cell living. But, you know, it's like guys that are doing time, once they hit level 2, it's like, you know what, I'm good. You know, and then you got these assholes that are doing like a couple years. They want to politic and be tough, you know, level 2 killers, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Nothing, act like, yeah, my homeboy so-and-so. I'm like, who gives a fuck? You know? So how was that for you? Like all of a sudden here you are in level 2.
Dude, it was, especially like, because I mean, by the time you got there, lifers had been there. So like when I got there with the no lifers, bro, it was like super squirrely, dude. Like motherfuckers were snitching. Like, you know, I got in a couple little fist fights. One time I was like eating a bowl of food and like this dude's like breathing on my food and shit. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? And I had to realize like you know, but it was a good thing because I realized like, man, fuck, dude, I kind of got some fucked up little mentalities that I need to fucking deal with before I get out. Because like, but yeah, no, like for sure, dude, just some like J-Cats, fucking weirdos, man, fucking, yeah, and these candy ass fucking dudes doing 16 with half, you know, that fucking oh, I got away for it with everything I've ever done. I'm like actually a fucking serial killer, but I'm doing 16 with half for possession. You know what I mean? Okay, buddy. You know?
You know, I tripped out because like guys that owe money and they come around taking collections for these guys to pay their debts. I'm like, and then one time I forgot the guy's name. He was from Malibu or some shit, you know, and he was just a knack, you know, they had money. And these dudes are putting him in debt. And then, you know, I'm like, hey, they're like, hey, we're taking a collection, you know, for so-and-so debt, you know. I go, hey, if you go stab that motherfucker, I'll pay his whole debt. You know, you're fucked up. I go, oh, no, you're fucked up. You know? I just, yeah, and dudes are like shot caller on the yard and fucking they're lames. And I would just stop.
Yeah, bro. For sure, dude. Yeah, no. I remember one time I had to tell one of the white guys like something had happened, dude, where like some drugs had been something happened where like a white guy ended up with a bunch of drugs that belonged to somebody else, but like really the way he got it was legit, you know? So like, and then the dude that had the yard was like, oh, well, this other group segment, this other, you know, the Southern Hispanics are tripping. I'm like, and I'm gonna give them some. I'm like, look, bro, if you go break these dudes off because you're fucking scared, I'm gonna walk right up to their fucking shot collar and book his shit. And then what are you gonna do then, bro? Like, you know what I mean? Straight up, I'll go book that fool before. You ain't gonna just be getting punked out of shit, bro. Like, if you're cool with getting punked, dog, that's one thing, bro. But like, you know what I mean? I shouldn't say punk, bro. Like, he was a good dude, bro, and he was just trying to do what was right. Let me rephrase that, dog. Erase that when the editing, because it's our mutual friend of ours. You know, I want to say, I think he just was inexperienced. You know what I mean?
But I know the situation, and
it got me furious, dude. It got me furious. I'm like, you're gonna cave in to these dudes. You're basically gonna get it. If you hand that over, you're getting extorted. And I'm not gonna be on a yard where a white dude gets extorted, bro. So I'm gonna just go ahead and handle this shit.
And he was a friend of yours. I got along with him.
He's my boy, dude. Yeah, it's my boy. So yeah, edit the
I like him. He's a motorcycle rider, and
yeah. He was hella cool. And he just he didn't you know, and he was getting pulled to this. He was a good dude. He had a good heart, and he was doing what he thought was right. You know what I mean?
So that situation was, if I remember, somebody brought in a large amount of dope for another race, and then he got a cut, and then he gave it to somebody else, to give to somebody else, to give to somebody else on another yard, and every step of the way. And so, like, by the time the dude got the shit, it went from like this, right, down to, like, to that.
Well, yeah,
everybody was pointing fingers at everybody else, like he got some, and why do I got to give up what I got? And it was just a fucking mess.
Well, my whole thing was spun out. Everybody spun to the gills. The whole yard had been up for 2 weeks. Yeah, my whole thing was this. Like, my trip on it was, look, man, this stuff was supposed to get delivered. You knew that whoever was doing it had never done it before, and they dropped it off like if I was gonna come drop it off to you on the streets. So that right there, they're bad, dude. They're bad, bro. They knew that this dude's people that were doing this were not versed in this kind of shit. So boys, people came in with this shit just in a Ziploc bag, a freezer bag. Hey, dude, your people should have packaged that shit up for the dude, man, and they didn't. Right. And then it was dumped. That shit was dumped out there, and the dude that works out there recovered this shit, bro. So that shit's done, bro. Like, that shit's not yours anymore, bro. Like, and it's because your people didn't package it and provide instructions to the person that was doing it that you knew was ignorant of this kind of behavior. You know what I mean?
They dropped the ball. I mean, it was a wreck, man. And
yeah, it was fucking gnarly, bro.
I've been clean for quite a while by then, and I was just like, wow. I mean, they were dudes, because, you know, there were dudes like they're on status where they can't come out of the dorm at night because they've been fucking, and they go outside. They put locks on the doors, and the light from the dorm window, they got their arm, they're out there slamming. Oh my God, I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on here?
That shit was some Wild West shit, bro. Like, hey, remember there were porta potties on the yards because none of the fucking toilets were working. Like, it was just a crazy time, dude. I think like 7 dudes PC'd up on that one, you know?
Yeah. And you know, I'm living in a dorm with 90 fucking dudes. I lived in one of the worst dorms on the yard. I couldn't get in a 45-man dorm because, you know, for whatever fucking reason, which we know about later why. But you know, and these dudes are up all night for weeks. And I'm like, dude, I had, you know, my little homeboy Lucas.
Yeah. Hell yeah. He used to roll around with the Native American. He used to roll around. He had the Native American dude for this road dog.
Yeah. Big dude. Yeah. I had to bring me a couple knives from the plumbing shop. I'm like, hey, put a knife here, put a knife here, put a knife here. And I had one in the dorm. I'm like, fuck this, dude. I'm just like, I'm stabbing motherfuckers, you know. It was insane.
Yeah,
the
that shit was
was spun out, man.
That was just, wow. The whole fucking, I don't know if you remember, but like,
except you and I weren't, but everybody else was.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, dude, fucking, they even like, because of my past behavior, I don't know if you remember, but like me and Taylor, remember my little buddy Taylor?
Yeah.
We were walking back from Chow and Seaburn and Thomas came and snatched us up and taped us up and like took us to the program office. And I'm like, dude, bro, like for the one time, it's not me, dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're like, we're gonna take you to potty watch. I'm like, you can go ahead and do all that shit, bro. But like, you
taping you up, just so you know, taping you up means the cops think you got some dope or weapons, and they'll come and grab you, and they'll put duct tape around your ankles and around your handcuff. You know, so if you have something, you can't get rid of it. Yeah. Those two cops thought they were just, you know. They knocked that guy's tooth out, that guy Woody or whatever the fuck his name was.
He's from San Jose or something, right?
Yeah, Monterey, San Jose, something. He was talking shit, and I took him in the day room and knocked his whole tooth. A little South Sider, because I cut my knuckles on his face, and the South Sider, he goes, "Wow!" I go, "What's up?" He goes, "I didn't know teeth were that big." It knocked his whole tooth out. That one cop, he was on vacation, and he came back like 2 weeks later, and I'm walking down the street, and he goes, "Hey, Smiley." I go, "What's up?" He goes, "You know, there's no secrets around here." So he was letting me know that he knew.
Yeah, for sure.
If I would have been there when it happened, I probably would have got gaffled up, you know?
Yeah, they knew everything that happened on that yard.
So they gaffled you up when that fucking fiasco was going on?
Oh, the other one? Or the talking about that one? Yeah, they gaffled that. They cut me loose from the program office, you know what I mean? Because they could see that I didn't have nothing, and then fucking you know, you weren't loaded. Yeah, you know, so they're just like, all right. And Taylor, you know, Taylor didn't use either, so you know what I mean?
So you had some issues. I remember you told me a thing like, you know, when you got there, when you were using, you had an argument with a guy through the fence or some shit.
Yeah, well, what happened was like we were on lockdown. I was in another dorm, and the cops came up, and the dude that I was with, he had some shit on him, right? And he was a lifer. He's trying to go to board. He hadn't been written up for a while. So he's like, get rid of this, you know? And the cops are right there, you know what I mean? So like, it's like, I'm like, fuck it, dude, or whatever. You know, I'm going to bite the bullet this time. So I fucking took the shit. I ran. They put the yard down. I disposed of the shit, and I went to the hole where I had a phone on the yard, and I was doing my thing just with like some weed and shit, you know what I mean? But I was partying, so like, you know, like there was like there's people owed me money and I owed money, you know what I mean? But I always made sure like balanced out, you know what I mean? Because the money I'm making off the weed is gonna cover my other bullshit. Plus I got a phone, right? But I would rent the phone out, and so these guys, everybody that had been renting the phone out, they're like, let's say they gave me $75, right? And then like, you know, I went to the hole, so they didn't get the remainder of their time. They went and told the whoever that I owed them, the cost of a phone at the time was $500, $500. So like, I sit in the hole for like 10 days, and I get kicked out to the other yard, E yard, the yard where I met you at. I was on G yard. I go to E yard, and these dudes are getting at me like, oh yeah, you owe $4,000, and I'm like, I don't know fucking $4,000. You're fucking tripping, dude. You know what I mean? Like, you are tripping, dude. Like, so anyways, I'm like, these fools are lying and shit. So I go to the fence, and I seen one of them, dude, and I'm like, hey, bro, what the fuck, dude? I'm like, hey, come here. And he's like, what's up? And I'm like, what the fuck you doing telling people I owe you $500, bro? Like, you gave me $75 for some phone time, dog, and I gave you something. I owe you, like, worst case scenario, you're gonna say like a remainder of your balance for this phone time, bro. Like, you're tripping. Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, well, when am I gonna get paid then? And I'm like, whatever, dog. Yeah, you ain't getting shit, bro. You decide. And I look to the dudes though, you know, and I'm like, what's up with this shit? And they're like, oh, that's a personal issue. I'm like, oh, so one, you jam me up over some money that these fools are lying about, and two, you just seen another dude admit to lying, and you ain't gonna do nothing about it. So I don't know that. Anyways, so I was going to canteen. I got to the dude's homeboys, you know. I knew him, and he got checked over this shit. He didn't like it, and he seen me going to the store. I got 2 big bags of laundry bags at canteen, and he called, hey, he's like, hey, Bobby. I'm like, what's up? You know, this is like a couple weeks later, and he's like, when you gonna get paid? And I'm like, man, get at your homeboys. You know you already got paid, bro. And he's like, well, you're still a punk bitch, though. And I'm like, yeah, I got your punk bitch hanging, homie. I'm gonna fucking go to the library right now. I'm gonna bang your shit out. And so I fucking I went over there with my boy FS, dog, and he brought a change of clothes with me out of plastic bag. I had it all figured out. You know what I mean? I was like, I'm going to get this fool to the blind spot in the Connex box. I'm going to tell him, let's fight. And as soon as we get back there, dude, I'm just smacking this fool, you know? Call me a punk bitch to the fence, dog. And then it didn't end up playing out like that because this fool, like, I saw him. I'm like, what's up, dog? Come over here. And he's like, hold on. And he runs to education, comes back with like 7 of his homeboys. And he starts yelling hella crazy. Hey, fuck you. Your mom's a bitch. All this shit. I'm like, yeah, I know. But there's like a tower right there, you know? So I'm like, I understand all that. Let's go behind this Connex box and fight about it. You know what I mean? And he just keeps yelling and yelling and yelling. And so finally I just pulled a banger out. And I'm like, yeah. Who's a bitch, motherfucker? And I pulled the banger out. And his homeboy literally is the most classic, like, prison movie moment. He's like, he's got an ass. And he grabs the dude, and these 7 dudes just book it. And me and FS are looking at each other like, what the fuck just happened right now, dog? You know, It's just me and FS, bro. And FS is holding like a bag of clothes for me to change into after I get done. So he's not like, you know, I think that might have, maybe they sensed something was up. You know what I mean? Because my one homeboy that's with me ain't really tripping, dog. You know what I mean?
That's so I think like level 2 shit. You know, guys run their fucking mouth and then they see they see a piece. It's like, oh wow, this shit's real, you know. So
yeah, these motherfuckers ran for the woods, dog. I'm like, what the fuck?
You know, one time that dude that owed money they were taking a collection for, he owed me a couple of bucks. What the fuck was his name? He was down there in dorm 2, you know, and all them dudes had him buying dope for him and all that shit. And then I don't know if you remember my little homeboy JR. He was kind of a nut, kind of fucking short, worked out all the time, a little ghetto.
Yeah, he's just a little like I wouldn't say J-Cat because he's a reg, but like just a little, little spaced out. He's like a little spaced out.
Yeah, no filter, bro. He just, you know.
Yeah. But he was cool. He's a good dude.
Yeah, so he was my bunk, and he told me, hey, bro, whatever, because I want you to go home, you know. So any problems on the yard, I got you, you know. I'm like, all right, cool. So we had another homeboy there, Ricky. He was down there. Dad's a biker. He was a biker. I don't know if you remember him, Ricky. And he had a problem.
I remember the name. I can't put a picture of face though.
He had a problem with somebody. I go, hey, bro, you don't have to ask these guys no permission. I go, if you got a problem with somebody, you just go fuck them up. I go, you're from San Diego. You're a biker. Fuck these dudes. Do what you want. If they got a fucking problem with it, then we'll handle that later. You know, I'm not asking permission to. If I got a problem with somebody, I'm gonna go deal with it. So anyway, you know, he's a little slow. He tells Buckethead, yeah, man, my homeboy Smiley said I don't have to ask permission. I want, you know. So,
hey, Buckethead was a loose cannon, boy. He was a loose.
Tells me, hey man, you know, bikers don't run nothing on the yard. I go, yeah, okay, you know, sure. So we're walking laps, and I seen that. This is later. We seen that dude that owed us money, you know, and I'm like, I'm poking him in the face, and I'm like, motherfucker, you don't pay me, I'm gonna kick your fucking teeth out. And well, dude saw it, you know. So I'm walking the track with my homeboys, and so we're up kicking back by a building 4 or whatever, and Buckethead comes walking up the street, and he goes, hey, Smiley, you got a minute? And JR goes, what do you want with my homeboy? And he had fucked some dudes up my size, you know, and he was only about 5'7". He was short, but he was a tough fucking dude, you know.
Heart of a lion.
But no, man, it ain't like that. So, you know, you learn who's running what, you know, when it's, you know what I mean? I hated that fucking place, you know, because
Yeah.
I was trying to go home, but there was always some fucking shit testing you. I hadn't had a knife in a long time, but I had a knife there, you know. It's just.
Yeah, I had a couple of good ones when I was there, you know, fucking these motherfuckers kept. Yeah, but anyways, that's a whole other thing, dog. That's a whole other thing.
You know, they
But
test.
hey, I gotta clear one thing up. I know you hated that cop Combs, man, but that dude was good to me, bro. He was good to me. He was a good dude, bro. I know you hate him though, Mitch. I know you hated him, but
Took my radio.
I know he did, bro. I know.
He used
Hey,
to talk shit to me at the package window.
I know he did. I can't defend all of his actions, dude. I can just say that
He's a nut. That dude's a nut. You know that, right? I think he's a fucking nut. That cop.
Hey, he ain't no chump though, bro. You know, he wasn't no chump, bro. He pulled all this shit off, and we almost got busy back there, dog. He didn't hit no alarm. He didn't hit nothing, bro. The dude I worked with, Fred, got in between us and stopped it, and then. And so, you know, he definitely was not a punk, bro. You know what I mean?
He did my radio. He gave it to his wife over on the East Yard. Fucking asshole, you know? Yeah.
That's fucked up. Well, I'm sorry about that. I can't defend all of his actions, bro. And he's he's an officer, he's a cop, you know, but he treated me well, dude. He did good by me. I got to say that.
Yeah, R&R is the place it happened. So you got out of prison from CMC. Before you got out, I remember you cleaned up, quit using.
Yeah. Lars, you played a big part in that, man. Mitch, for sure. I remember when I first saw you come to the yard, I was like, oh, this dude seems cool, you know, and then I'd hear you talking shit about people getting high and shit. I'd be like, man, fuck this motherfucker. You know what I mean? Straight up. I'm like, fuck this dude, man. Thinks he's fucking tough, right? You know? And then fortunately, Brian Laudenbeck, rest in peace, you know, he was my bunkie in building 5, dorm 5, and he started taking me to AA, and I got to know another side of you, man, you know, and you know, I remember you'd be waiting for me when they did yard release, dude, and you'd be like, come on over here, bro, like you ain't, don't even think about fucking going over to the motherfuckers that are getting high, bro, right now, bro, we're gonna walk some laps, we're gonna go to church, we're gonna go to AA, we're gonna go to NA, dude, like, I'll never forget that shit, Mitch, never forget that shit, bro.
Well, you know, you're a good dude, bro, and I just it was nice to see you get on track, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I went to the hole right after you got out. Some guy got
Actually, how did that happen? How did that happen?
Like that's one thing I don't like about all the, you know, the shot callers was I found out there was a guy on that yard with a really fucked up crime. And you know, it's hard to get anyone to kill anyone on a level 2 yard, but a couple guys jumped on this dude and they beat him for about 20 minutes straight. Yeah. You know, down there by building 2, building 3, it's real dark.
Yeah.
On the night yard, they got this dude out there and they beat him down, knocked him down, and they were just on him, just like kicking his fucking face in and just
trust him. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I want to say. You know, I've hurt a lot of people in my life, physically, emotionally, and I'm trying to just live good right now to make up for that. You know, I deeply regret it, but like any child molester, rapist, somebody that hurts women, I played a part in them getting hurt. My only regret would be for those of them that lived. I wish they hadn't lived, bro, straight up. Other than that, though, I regret my the armed robbery, all the people, the women in my life I've heard. You know, women don't get enough credit, bro. They're amazing. You know, I've been fortunate to have 2 good, you know, throughout the course of my life, been in relationship with 2 good women. You know, like one when I was young and one a few years ago, and you know, man, they're the shit, dude. You know, women are the shit. You know, so you know,
I'm where I'm at now because I have a good wife. You know, so
yeah, for sure, bro.
Yeah, so I went to the hole. I got back out of the hole, and the 4 or 5 other guys, they got transferred. You know, it turns out we're on a main line yard, and that's why, you know, guys are, oh, you can't go to East Yard, it's no good. But when this shit happened, you know, half the fucking yard locked up because after that incident, they go, we're gonna check every white dude's paperwork on the yard. and like 10
No.
dudes locked up. Been on that yard for years before I got there. So you know,
we had before you got there, we had something similar happen in G Yard. We had an idea. We're like, let's just go to break. It wasn't my idea, bro. My boy Damien, dude, I think was the one that they came up with it. And they were like, look, we're gonna go to Chow at breakfast, and we're just gonna talk loudly and say like, hey, we got on the phone, we fucking shit ran everybody's name, and there's 6 sex offenders here, child molesters here that we found out that have been undercover, and when a yard release, we're gonna smack them. You know what I mean? And like 5 dudes PC that. It's just some like it's a little like mind game we were playing. Like that shit. Like what the fuck?
Just it was weird shit, man.
Yeah.
So when you got out, you got in a little trouble here and there, but now you're out. So
yeah, no, I'm doing good, man. And I just
you broke your leg.
Broke my leg. Yeah, they might have to amputate it. I don't know that. We'll see. I'm gonna go to Stanford, see what's up. Yeah, I broke it in 2016 skateboarding out here in Santa Cruz. I was at New Life, and yeah, that was a struggle. I was clean and sober when I broke my leg, and then yeah, that's a whole nother thing. I want to mention my boy Jesse, like all my older homeboys too, Tommy, Charles, Spider, you know what I mean, Tootie, like all my all my homeboys, all that. I want to mention them dudes, Brian, I love you, bro.
Homies that'll help you out, or what's
homeboys along the way, for sure, dude. So all my homeboys, dude, all my homeboys know they know who they are. All my bunkies and cellies,
yeah.
They're not forgotten about. Matt, it's all my homeboys, I love them, man.
So you're out, you got in a little trouble, got some violations, you're out now, and you're in a program now?
Yeah, I'm in a program right now. I just did a parole violation as I got arrested at a drug program in Salinas in October. Somebody had overdosed on fentanyl, and he was a friend of mine, and his stepfather was there, and he thought I had given him the fentanyl, which I hadn't, but like, you understand, and like, so him and I kind of got in a little scuffle, and I got arrested. It was just a misunderstanding, but I get it, dude. That's his stepson, and he his stepson was in the bathroom, blue in the face, you know what I mean? And that's going to make somebody, behave irrationally, and it's an unfortunate situation, but it is what it is. It's all blessings. I'm blessed. I'm still alive. Yeah, I'm doing good at a program. I'm gonna keep doing good.
You start working next week?
Yeah, I should start. They're gonna let me start job searching. They said they're gonna expedite me here because I've been here before. I've done well before here, and so I think by like Friday they're talking.
Rose up.
I'll be able to start job searching, but there's a few jobs, I won't have a problem finding a job.
Yeah. So, hey, man, we just touched on some of the crazy shit you've been through and your prison experience and your life. But I mean, what's your take on, just for the guys watching, younger guys, what's your take on life, man? And as far as crime and dope and prison and just your whole experience, what you gain from it? What kind of message you like to put out there?
I mean, for anybody that's young, like it's not the road to travel, man. It's just a tragedy, hardship, sorrow, loss. Like I've heard everybody that's ever cared about me or loved about me, I've let down, I've hurt, and I've been selfish, self-centered. It's sad, bro. It's sad, dude. It's sad, and it's lonely, and it's not the way to live, man. It's not, it's just not the way to live. It's not.
Yeah. There's nothing like sitting in a prison cell, man, when you got family and friends out in the world that love you,
Yeah, it's fucked up.
You can't be with them, and it hurts them. So I mean, well, we're out now. We're free.
Yeah, we're out now. Oh, my buddy Stu too, man. Rest in peace, Stu, man. I gotta mention him, dude. That's my best friend. This is initials on my name. Yeah, my boy, dog.
It's all about moving forward, and stay in touch.
For sure.
I got faith in you, brother.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it. Yeah, well, I'll come out to Arizona. I'm gonna build me a Harley here pretty soon. Dude, my mom's gonna be fucking furious, dog. But I got I got some of my boys that they're bikers and shit. They're like, look, you get a dirt bike and you go out to Hollister Hills and you ride that dirt bike and you figure that dirt bike out, dog. And don't trip. I'll help you build a bike, bro. You know what I mean? But you got to figure the dirt bike out first. I ain't gonna fuck with you until you can ride that dirt bike.
Yeah. You got nowhere to go but up, bro.
Straight up. Thank you, bro. I love you, Mitch.
Love you too. Life's good, bro. It really is. I mean, if I can do 38 years in prison, get out here and do what we're doing, you can definitely do it because you're a lot smarter than I am. So
I wouldn't go that far, but I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you for everything you've done, dude. You know, thank you so much, dude, for all the love and support you've always given me, bro. My family loves you, bro. My mom and dad always ask about you. How's he doing? If Mitch is in California, let him know he can stay at our house, bro. Like, you know, for sure, bro. Like,
yeah,
I love you, bro. Your family, you know, your family.
get out there and do it hard, Bobby.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brother.